watching Real Simple News with Coffee on Tuesday, August 4th. And today's top story, a lawmaker from the 8th District of Illinois says that we should ban history classes because they lead to racism. Representative LaShawn K. Ford said teaching unfairly communicates history? Huh? He said it overshadows work done by undermined groups, including black people, because apparently, even though the vast majority of Americans are white, apparently black history is the most important thing in history because this guy is black. He urged the state to stop history classes until a better teaching method can be found. And yes, this is pretty fruitcake. What else is he saying? So he's a Democrat. He and other community leaders in Evanston, Illinois, are called on state leaders to stop history lessons until a better method can be found. He told CNN, until a suitable alternative is developed, we should instead devote greater attention towards civics and ensuring students understand our democratic process and how it can be evolved. That's actually pretty freaky because these Black Lives Matter extremists, like the ones that are running the hashtag BLM movement, not the BLM Foundation person that's trying to bring the black people, the black community, and the police together, because that is a very commendable effort that's worth donating money to. But the other group of BLM people are trained Marxists from what they claim. And now they have like a paramilitary branch, the Not Effing Around Coalition, and they go around with guns intimidating people because they want reparations. And so this is definitely getting, this is like spiraling out of control into fruitcake land, as if the lunatics have taken over the asylum. So let us take a moment to pray for America. Don't forget to include people of the 11th District of Illinois who LaShawn K. Ford claims to represent. All right, moving on. And what you can see is a picture of Nazis burning books, because this is what's coming next. This is the cultural purge, part of their cultural Marxist agenda, where they want to replace the white people because they're racist. This is part of why they don't want to enforce their immigration policy in California, but that's not the only reason. The other reason is because it boosts the number of U.S. House seats that they have if they don't enforce their immigration policy. And 2/3 of the immigrants vote for Democrats. So why would they want to do it if the Latinos coming in, the illegal immigrants, just become a permanent underclass? So they get slave labor and they get to maintain their position at the top of the ivory tower. So why on earth would you assume that they would ever want to change that strategy? Because that one is relatively kooky. I mean, you're gonna have to give it to him. LaShawn K. Ford has officially taken the Fruitcake of the Month award. I mean, we've heard some stuff that's more stupid than this, but this one is actually up there with the Nazi book burnings. So just remember to keep the people of the 8th District of Illinois in your prayers, because apparently the insanity is getting worse. In this next article from the New York Post, Black Lives Matter protesters say costly gear to protect them from cops prices them out of civil rights. A group of BLM extremists in Seattle are claiming that they're being priced out of their civil rights by the prohibitive cost of defending themselves against police violence. The lawsuit filed on Monday in federal court alleges that the repeated use of force by Seattle Police Department has made it impossible for them to ... to exercise their rights to protest without extensive personal protective gear, quote, because protesters now must purchase extensive equipment to be assured that they will be able to protest safely. The indiscriminate use of weapons by SPD implicate equal protection. The lawsuit implicates equal protection, the lawsuit says. The plaintiffs, Jessica Benton, Shelby Bryant, Anne Marie Kavanaugh, with a C at the beginning, not a K like Brett Kavanaugh, Alyssa Garrison, Claire Thompson, says helmets, gas masks, goggles, gloves, boots, umbrellas, and other gear are needed against pepper spray and non-lethal projectiles used for crowd dispersals. Okay, so let me get this straight. So you're rioting for like months on end over fake news because George Floyd died of a fentanyl overdose when he had a heart attack in the ambulance after an EMT checked his pulse after Officer Chauvin, a veteran of the police department who had his wife was I think she was Asian, right? Don't quote me on that. She was a minority. She was not white. Floyd worked with Chauvin at a Latin nightclub. So like this whole narrative of racism here and the police, the white cop kills unarmed black man. This thing's not really panning out here. So these people are claiming that because they're rioting, which is not a peaceful assembly, that they need riot gear and that they have some sort of right to be there after crowd control agents have been used. I'm not sure if they've ever read the Constitution, if these people are on drugs, where on earth are they getting this? Did they must have filed the lawsuit by themselves, because any lawyer in their right mind would tell you that you're crazy. Hold on, wait a minute. No, there's lots of lawyers out there that would say that you have a chance of winning just to get you to pay them money. But the First Amendment says you have a right to peacefully assemble. And if you're not peacefully assembling, you're supposed to take it to the ballot box. If you're not happy with those results, then you are a threat to democracy if you want to use force to override the ballot box. You are also a criminal at that point in time. So the argument here that they are having their constitutional rights violated because they have been rioting so much they have to wear personal protective equipment because they know when they're going there that it's going to be a riot. This is insanity. But what can you expect from hood Democrats and white feminists? If you're unaware of what white feminism is, white feminism is, well, they're saying white feminism is theories that focus on the struggles of women without addressing distinct forms of oppressions to ethnic minority women and lacking other privileges. And I'm going to argue that it's where you prioritize white women's issues over everyone else's. Because I do believe most of when people talk about the history of how black people became to get a lower wage than white people, there is a lot of stuff where you could definitely agree with some of the feminists here. But the white feminists, now you could also argue against it in that you're going to be better off with a traditional family structure and that you will be much happier with your partner. Then you throw lesbians and gay men in there and all the other genders they claim exist, then it gets a lot more complicated. But this white feminism thing, this one's pretty cut and dry. This is why all of these BLM Antifa Nazi extremists are out there doing race riots in cities that are predominantly white. This is how insane they are. They live in a city where it's almost all white people. There's hardly any police shootings, and they're out there having race riots. It's like you gotta wonder, have these people been on way too many psychedelic drugs? Are they on meth? Is there a boatload of crack cocaine downtown Portland? Is it heroin? Is it 2CB? Is it Flocka? Are they doing Flocka down there at the Black Lives Matter riots? Because this shit is insane, dude. The only reason why these white feminists are out here protesting are because it's an equality movement and they want more money for white women because they think white women are underpaid. But then you start to look at the reality of the situation, and it turns out that white women are some of the wealthiest people in the world. They actually they own pretty much 2/3 of the wealth in the United States. They control 85% of consumer spending. They buy 91% of homes, 66% of PCs, 92% of vacations, 80% of healthcare, 65% of new cars. They own 85% of bank accounts. They buy 93% of food and pharmaceuticals. That is insane purchasing power. So when you see an advertisement on the internet that says the women are oppressed, what that means is they want to get a raise at work, or they want you to donate to the Southern Poverty Law Center or whatever other leftist group is putting out the ad, because you have to think you're getting targeted by ads. So who's paying for the ads? They're not free. They're trying to get money. And since 85% of consumer spending is from women, they're trying to target women. So what does that have to do with this? The white feminist in a race riot. And now they want us to, because apparently they have a right to do this. So supposedly the government is supposed to pay for their riot gear or something. See, because that's the thing you're saying. We've been injured because we're being prevented from being part of the democratic process. So you have to pay for the tort offense that you've done. So you're like, okay, the tort offense. What is the tort offense? Oh, well, we didn't have the riot gear. Like, okay, so we give you money and then you buy riot gear, right? All right. okay, you're fucking insane, man. Like, that's so fucking crazy. That's lunatic, dude. In this next fake news article from the New Scientist, coronavirus, U.S. has no cohesive plan to tackle a second wave. The U.S. is battling a second wave of coronavirus cases and has no cohesive national strategy to stop the spread. And then it starts with some bullshit narrative to walk you into the fake news piece. When Anton Dupont started to feel under the weather in mid-July, he immediately wanted to be tested for the coronavirus. Unable to find the facility where he could get this done near his home in West Palm Beach, Florida, a friend told him about the urgent care clinic where a handful of appointments in Boca Raton, 30 minutes away. Sorry, it had a handful of appointments. And then he secured a test the next Friday. This should be a red flag anytime you see any sort of story walking through to lead you into the thought process that they're going through. This should immediately tell you this is completely fake news. It is infuriating. Once you know they're trying to set you up into a mindset to believe whatever the fuck they believe, it's irritating because you can call them out on it. It's like a logical fallacy. I don't know what kind of logical fallacy that is, but it's got to be a logical fallacy because it's so common to see. So what's wrong with this? They say there's a second wave. Let's go look at the data. So here's the testing data. And so this is probably what they think is the second wave. But this is the mortalities. So let's look at the mortalities. So first you have to notice when you're looking at this graph, when it started going up at 319. It's never going back down to this level over here where it was 0. It's never going to happen. It's always going to be up somewhere. This includes all 6 different strands of COVID. One of these strands of COVID is incredibly deadly. And this explains why the rise in the graph here is only a very small slope. So we had this hump. Let's look at the start. We got a start here at about March 19th. And then at about March 26th, it started to rise. So this is the, what is it called? Propagation delay until the deaths start kicking in. And then we also have a peak here, and then we can see the peaks around April 10th. And then the peak deaths were around April 19th. So there was like 9 days. And so when you look at the deaths, you can see there's some bump around where here's the George Floyd race riots starting, and then George Floyd race riots continuing. And then here's the bump in the deaths that we could see from the George Floyd race riot. Let's call them the George Floyd fake news race riots because that is a better description of what they exactly are. So this line is never going to go back to 0. It's not going to be a bell curve. It's going to go back down, and it's going to stay there for the rest of humanity. We want it to go back down to where the flu's at. So, influenza. You got to look at, and you start looking at this, and you want to compare these numbers. You got to start looking at the number of flu deaths that we can expect. Get out the calculator. And so the flu deaths, what Wikipedia is saying is about like 290 to 650 flu deaths per year. And so I'm going to take 290 plus 650. Divide by 2, that's about 4. So we're going to take the average between the two things. Say there's about 470,000 flu deaths per year. America is about 5% of the world's population. So we're going to take that number and divide it by 20. So we can expect in America about 23,500 flu deaths per year. So I live in Oregon. Oregon is about 4 million people. So U.S. is about 3 million. So Oregon is forwarded by 320 million. So in Oregon, we should be expecting there to be times 1,000. About 300 deaths per year from COVID. So let's go down and let's go look at Oregon. And we look at Oregon, we're going to see that we have 333 deaths so far this year. And there's going to be about 300 flu deaths. So we might be looking at like 500 COVID deaths here in Oregon. So this is at flu levels. This is flu level death risk in Oregon. But somehow the lunatic Democrats are forcing us to wear masks, which we've never done before. And there's a problem with these masks, is that if you don't change them every day, that COVID will accumulate on them, because the place you're most likely to get COVID at is in your house. And that's because you interact with people. COVID will travel from house to house, because most people are interacting with people at their house and not going out and then work. So there's no COVID problem in Oregon, but they're making us wear masks. And the only reason why would be because they're Democrats. So it does look like there is a few more deaths, but it does look just about normal. Looks like something that you would see around the period of time when schools are going to start back up again. People are going to start interacting with each other more. So let's go back and look at because you have to look at these graphs. When you look at them, you have to look at them for what they are. Over time, you're going to have to look at them in a logarithmic curve. And what you're going to see is it's going to look like this, and it's going to continue to look like that pretty much until the end of time. You can kind of adjust it a little bit, but whenever we started the lockdowns, the suicide rate in the United States went up 358%. And if those suicide rates continue, there's about 20,000 people per year that commit suicide per year. Oops. Let's look it up. Yeah, suicide rate was... Okay, that's not... Typically, we look at these deaths in rates, units of 100,000. Sorry. Woo, damn. Look at that. Woo, damn. All right, let's take that number. That's a scary number. 358%. Hold on. 3.58. So it increased 358%. Hold on. No. You have to times it times 3.58. Hold on. Let's multiply it by 4. I don't know why I was doing that. Because it increased by 358%. So if those numbers continued, which it's not, but if they did, it would kill 200,000 people just from the suicide from being isolated. So given that the population is what? So we didn't start wearing masks until a little bit ago in Oregon. And so when you look at, they were like telling us to wear masks, and they're like, oh, we're having a COVID problem. And then they told us to wear a mask. This was when they started, people started wearing masks around here. And then this was set around the 1st of July was when they made the mandate. So they're saying there's a COVID increase. We have to wear masks. But then there's a problem with this in that if you wear a cloth mask, it increases your chance of getting the flu. And COVID works just like the flu. So you must ask yourself, is the reason why the COVID increasing is because we're wearing masks? You do have to ask yourself, if the place where I'm most likely COVID at is at my house, and I'm not going to wear a mask at my house, and if I'm isolated, I might kill myself. Well, we must then really start to look at this, because the people who are actually at risk of dying from COVID, where is it? It should be here, are not young people. So this is the numbers of people who died. As of June 17th, the numbers are going to be just about the same because there's a large sample size on there. And when you do the numbers, they're below the age of 45. Hold on, let me rephrase that. Above the age of 45, your risk of dying from COVID goes up 38 times. Under the age of 45, your chance of suicide now dramatically spikes. So if you're someone my age who needs to find a partner to have a baby with because we're running out of time, we're getting older, you're looking at this and you're like, well, is he pulling my leg when he's saying that the people that wearing a mask can increase my chance of getting COVID? Because that's some COVID misinformation. But a lot of doctors are saying this. Does wearing a mask increase your chance of COVID? And in Europe, there's a lot of people. See, here's even CNN. I mean, CNN is fake news. So, I mean, using this source to prove myself right, I'm going to admit right off the bat, I mean, may increase worn improperly. And that wearing improperly means that you're not wearing a sanitary mask. But the problem with this is that there's 6 different kinds of COVID. There's 6 different strands of COVID. And just so that you can, how many strands of COVID are there? Here's WebMD. There are 6. And so one of them is the worst. Here's the different coronavirus strand. Oh, that's not what I'm looking for. There's 6 strands. And one of them is really deadly. The other ones are not as deadly. So if you get the other strands of COVID before you get the one that is deadly, your chance of dying from the one that is deadly goes down dramatically, because at that point in time, your body can detect diseases that are similar to that strand of COVID. The reason why it's so deadly is because it's a new virus, and we don't have immunity to it. And so if with the flu, if older people are less likely to die than younger people, because the younger people don't have immunity to the flu, but older people have had the flu more times. And this makes it so whenever they do encounter a really bad version of the flu, like H1N1, because the flu, in the Spanish flu, the flu was not the pandemic. H1N1, that specific strand of flu was the pandemic. So when they say the infection counts were, where's COVID USA? When they say the infection counts were this high, it's very, very incredibly misleading that they use all of the different strands of COVID in the same statistic, because once you understand then at that point in time, okay, well, only 1/6 of these infections are actually the one that, it's not going to be 1/6. It's going to be more than that. The other ones do kill people. But then you can see how this can turn into fear mongering, because people are going to look at this graph and they're going to say, oh my God, there's a second wave. But then if you look at the actual data, COVID USA does not have a good graph of all of the states. They have a really good graph of each state individually, but NBC has the best one. Theirs is updated automatically from the CDC. So here's the reported deaths. So we can see there's always a spike like this because there's a bunch of these Gaussian curves in different areas that add up. But as we can see, COVID has not returned to New York. COVID is going. It's now, the pandemic is over in Jersey. It's over in Michigan. It's over in Massachusetts. In Louisiana, it looks like it kind of resurfaced, but now it definitely looks like it's going down again. In Connecticut, it's over. In California, it kind of looks like the thought process of a Democrat. All over the place, kind of mushy, like they tried to flatten the curve, but they just had a bunch of sketchy California people throw house parties, and it just went up and down a bunch. Pennsylvania, it's over. Illinois, it's over. Florida, looks like it peaked back up. Looks like the deaths went down, but that's not enough data to be able to come to a conclusive determination. Georgia didn't really look like they had a big problem. And you got to understand, most of the big cities in the Washington never had a problem. Texas had a big spike. Maryland, it's over. Ohio, it's never really a big problem. Ohio's pretty big. And then Indiana, it's over. Okay, so you just saw all of the data. You saw it with your own eyes. I walked you through. I've explained that a bunch of times, so hope I can do it quickly now. So you can see, obviously, the new scientist. Okay, I've definitely criticized these people before, but I can't remember what it was for. But this is obviously fake news. There's no massive second wave. These people are crazy. Obviously, because they do hire smart people. But the problem is that 86% of scientists are Democrats. And this makes them incredibly susceptible to bias. They look at all the charts and all the data from an anti-Trump derangement lens. And they will sell you on fear-mongering because they themselves are also too fear-mongering when they look at the data, when all they can see is how much they hate Donald Trump and how horrible of a job he's doing They're going to start getting really fearful about people getting hurt. And it's because they're crazy. You need to not listen to them. If that is your wife, you need to put her in check. Say, look, woman, you ain't getting no dick until you get up off this fake news shit. This next article for the New York Post, a Portland man, 18, is charged with assaulting a U.S. Marshal during a courthouse protest. An 18-year-old man in Portland was charged with assaulting a federal officer with a dangerous weapon and willfully damaging government property after he exploded a device allegedly blasted both of a deputy U.S. Marshal's leg. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office in Oregon, Isa Jason Maza Jr., who looks like a scum tifa, removed plywood sheeting attached to the front ... Attached to the front of the building to protect its already damaged facade. The morning of July 22nd, the attorney's office said, after pulling back the plywood, authorities said Maza tried to kick back the window and then punched it with a metal object and then with an alleged hammer. After the window was broken, Maza carried a cylindrical object and allegedly lit a fuse before putting it inside the broken window. The object exploded near law enforcement officers, leaving the building through the broken window, injuring the marshal. Maza was chased by cops and arrested less than 1 block later. So if there's any other scum tifa listening, you should start working out so that you don't get caught so quickly, because the competition is quite a bit bigger than you and they have a lot more guns. And they're actually legally allowed to shoot you when you're doing stuff like that, but they're probably not going to, because we don't live in a fascist country and you're fucking crazy. The assault charge is punishable by up to 20 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. The property damage charge is punishable by 10 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. Maza was ordered detained on Monday, pending the next court proceeding. And then fluff. Fluff really pisses me off. This is stuff that you see in news articles that they're trying to fill up space. So this is garbage. It says Portland has seen more than 2 months of often violent demonstrations following the police killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis. Yeah, you mean the intravenous drug addict who had banged a lethal dose of meth and a lethal dose of fentanyl, and he had a heart attack in an ambulance after Chauvin got up off his neck and the EMT checked his pulse. It's on record. This is the New York Post. Newsweek is doing the same thing, or shall we say fake Newsweek. It's really irritating that they keep continuing spewing this absolute garbage lie that the police killed George Floyd. There's no truth to it. There's never been a trial. All of the evidence points to them being innocent, the police being innocent. In early July, President Trump sent more federal agents to the city to protect the federal courthouse, but local officials said their presence made things worse. I don't think that you can actually say that that was worse. So let's compare the riots in Portland to the riots in Minneapolis and the riots in Seattle and the riots in Austin. And did they have riots? No, they had a shooting. I haven't looked at riots in Austin. I'm retracting that statement. It seems like they're as bad as all of the other riots. It doesn't seem to me like there's anything different of the Scum Tifa riots in Portland as opposed to the Scum Tifa riots in Seattle or the Scum Tifa riots in LA. It's like we're living in an alternate reality or something where we didn't even realize that all of this news was fake. People just completely oblivious. We're like, oh no, I thought that they're a reputable source. Right. Reputable source. In this next article from the New York Post, missing sailors rescued after searchers spot their SOS sign in the sand. These 3 castaways made it off of the island. Oops, sorry. The trio of lost sailors were rescued after 3 days on a small Pacific island Sunday when an airborne search crew spotted their SOS sign in the sand. The men were found in Picolet Island, an uninhabited Micronesian archipelago that is 118 miles away from the intended destination. Authorities said the SOS sign, an internationally recognized distress symbol that originates from Morse code, was spotted by Australian and U.S. rescuers. Do we have any pictures? Nope, that was it. That's all you get to see about that. This next article from NPR. There's a class action lawsuit that claims TikTok steals kids' data and sends it to China. Yeah, of course they're doing that. So in the United States, we now have, I can't remember what it's called, but they were on YouTube. They were collecting data about children without their parents' consent. COPPA. That's what it is. COPPA. And in that lawsuit, it pretty much bars companies from getting information about children without their parents' consent. So now there's all these things you have to do on YouTube to say there's things like not for kids, because when you're making it for kids, you got all these restrictions. So obviously TikTok is in trouble here. The lawsuit alleging that TikTok collects and sends Americans' users' data to China could cost the company hundreds of millions of dollars. That is so awesome. TikTok denies the allegation. TikTok is a brainwashing network. I know exactly how these people are brainwashing people on TikTok. What they're doing is they're controlling the order of the messages that you see. This is the basis of brainwashing is you control what words are acceptable, the context they can be used in, the order that they are used in, and what kind of response that you will have when you see the stimuli. So what China has been doing is using TikTok as a massive spy machine, along with Wikipedia, LinkedIn, and pretty much any other resource they can get their hands on. And they've been using the viral videos in order to send subliminal political messages to you. All the companies do this stuff. This is standard marketing. If you want to do good advertising, you want to put your customer into the right state of mind so they have the correct emotions when they see the advertisement. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to make a stimulus pairing in their mind so that when they see the stimulus, they have the correct emotion. And then you can use this for branding purposes. So China has millions of Chinese citizens working on that controls China's social media image from China using Chinese Nazi-controlled party companies. Chinese Nazi party-controlled companies. Sorry, I said that wrong. And TikTok is one of those companies. They claim they have a U.S. office, but they still had full control over the data. Families are suing TikTok in what turned into a major legal action in federal court. Dozens of minors, through their parents, are alleging the video sharing app collects information about their facial characteristics, locations, and close contacts, and quietly sends those data to servers in China. The TikTok app can access anything on your phone that is in the file system. That's scary. The fact that they know where your kid's at when they're walking around, they know what your kids are talking about, and this is a country that has hundreds of millions of impoverished Chinese out in the countryside. They claim to be communist, but they have filthy, stinking rich socialists in the cities. They have millions of Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps. They have an emperor, or a dictator, Xi Jinping, who looks just like Winnie the Pooh. And he really does not like it when you say that. They're attempting to be the world's #1 superpower. And they have private property ownership in Hong Kong. And so what this is called National Socialism. Xi Jinping says this is some kind of new form of Marxism or something. Marxism is a ideology that's killed hundreds of millions of people, but it definitely appears from the outside to be a Nazi structure, and it's illegal for you to encourage the people of Hong Kong to rebel against the dictator Winnie the Pooh, to encourage them to bring democracy to Hong Kong. That's violating their new national security law that is extraterritorial. So if you're in the United States and you say something like I said, then you are now a criminal in China, and you can face charges in China. You cannot run a business in Hong Kong. So they don't allow our social networks into China at all. They have only their social networks. And so in this next article from the New York Post, Chinese media slams Trump's smash and grab TikTok tactics. Chinese state branded the U.S. as a rogue country because of Washington's approach to the popular app TikTok, saying that forced sale would amount to open robbery. This coming from the country that spies on us, hacks our computer networks, steals our intellectual property. They don't respect our copyrights. They won't allow us to do business there unless we become a mouthpiece for Winnie the Pooh and for National Socialism. And they're saying that we're doing a smash and grab by forcing them to sell. We're Microsoft, I guess, and Apple are both in the biddings here. So they're gonna get a good price out of it. The article says Chinese media branded the U.S. as a rogue country late Monday after President Trump proposed that the federal government take a cut in a forced sale of the wildly popular TikTok app to Microsoft, saying such a deal would amount to open robbery. The world is... The U.S. government gets a cut of every sale in the United States. Where are you going to cover the costs that we have to pay for the national security infrastructure to deal with all the Chinese hackers, to monitor these Chinese social networks? Because it's not an American social network. Americans are in the social network, but the social network belongs to China. They say, oh no, you're in, where are they at? Were they a Hong Kong based? They say, no, you can have private ownership. They're not the Chinese Nazi party. They say they're the communists, but they're not communists because they have hundreds of millions of impoverished Chinese out in the countryside. It's supposed to be community ownership. So apparently the only community that owns anything are the people in the cities, and that the people out in the country are slaves. So reading on the article says the world is watching and God is watching how President Trump is turning once again great America into a rogue country. Really? They're going on a hacking binge right now. Want to talk about rogue? Rogue. Chinese people are way more rogue than Americans. Americans are definitely not rogue. If anything, we give way more than we receive. Trump said Monday he wanted to see the Beijing-based app owned by an American company, and said TikTok would be out of business in the United. Oh, so this is why it's National Socialism. Here, I was starting to talk about it, but I spaced out. It's National Socialism because the basis of National Socialism is that you can have private ownership. It's different than communism because there's a hierarchy and you can own private property and you compete to rise up the hierarchy, and then you compare one country to another. So if you're trying to be the number one superpower, this fits that definition of competing for the ethno-nationalist title of the top race. And when Chinese refer to American as being racist, they do actually use the Nazi definition of race. They say that Jews are a race, which they are white people. Caucasians are a race of people. Jews are an ethnicity of people. There's a difference in between a race and an ethnicity, because being a Jew, this doesn't necessarily mean that you are white. You may be black, but being a Jew, you might have certain family characteristics. Even if you're black, you might share these family characteristics. So it's an ethnicity. This is where the term come from. China uses this definition of race that the Nazis permeated, this concept that Chinese would be considered a race. So if you say the Wu flu or the Kung flu or the China virus or the CCP virus or the CNP virus, you are now offending the race of Chinese people that have a national socialist structure. So, I mean, I would personally say we should just disband their entire network and make it not worth anything. They apparently think that they deserve to be able to put their social network spy device here, but we can't go and put our social networks in their country. So fuck them. Fuck them. Oops. This next article from the Times of Israel: 44% of UK Muslims back anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, a poll finds. London-based Henry Jackson Society think tank report says integration may be a key to tackling anti-Jewish prejudice in the Muslim community. If you're not aware, Muslims regularly advocate for genocide. The article says, do we need to put any more of this? Let's look at the report. I mean, it's like a one line news title. Is this thing bunk? If you do want to debunk it, oh shoot, I forgot to bring this up. Real Simple News is a open source news organization. And you can find us on GitHub at github.com/Real Simple News. And it's issue number 59. The easiest way to get to it is realsimplenews.net/issue 59. Oops. Sorry. I guess it was. Okay, I got the wrong issue. It's issue 59. No, it is issue 58. That was a different one. It's issue 58. And then at the bottom, you can find a link to issue 57, which is not the right one. Sorry. It's issue 58. Not going so well. Israeli Times, or the Times of Israel, a lot of times when they put out stuff about the far right, it's going to be bunk. They will say anything is anti-Semitic. A lot of times that is true. There are a lot of people out there that do wish to wipe Israel off the face of the planet. Muslims are one of those groups of people. This next article from the Daily Mail, just 13% of Americans are satisfied with the way things are going in the U.S. A Gallup survey revealed a drop in contentment with the way things are going in the U.S. from 20% in July to only 13% in June. Sorry, 20% in June to only 13% in July, when the coronavirus cases surged in the South. So let's see what their sample size was. How many people did they ask? They asked 1,000 participants. And so they asked one person in every third county how they felt about how the country was going. And what they found from that was that a specific kind of people that would answer a poll, 13% of them, think the U.S. is not going in the right direction. I'm not sure. That question is so abstract. It's like, we're not going in the right direction. What does that even mean? Does that mean like the left is the wrong direction or the right is the wrong direction? It's just kind of like some bullshit. In this next article from Newsweek, Trump encourages Floridians to vote by mail after saying practice leads to massive cheating. Quote, there's no way you can go through mail-in ballots without massive cheating, President Trump says in an Axios interview. So this is more ridiculously stupid nonsense from fake Newsweek. What does it say? There was a tweet. In the tweet, Trump says, whether you call it vote by mail or absentee voting, in Florida, the election system is safe and secure, tried and true. Florida's voting system has been cleaned up. We defend the Democrats' attempts at change, or we defeated Democrats' attempts at change. So in Florida, I encourage all to request a ballot vote by mail. And then in another tweet, he said, oh, okay. No, that was it. This is what they're saying. This is what they're too stupid to understand. So the reason why Donald Trump said this is because when you're at your house, I live in Oregon where there's mail-in voting. So when you get your ballot and you live with people, the people at the house can intimidate you to vote a certain way. If the other people are lefties, they can force you to vote lefty. If you are at a polling place, you go into the polling booth, there's nobody there to force you to vote a certain way. And you are able to speak with people at the polling place to ask them their opinions. So this is something you can't do when you're in Oregon. And so we have a what is called a monoculture, a heterodoxy, where the majority of people, we're in a city, not a very big city. I think we have 500,000 people. Hold on, wait. No, there's like 350,000 people here or something. And then we're by Portland. So they're pretty lefty here, pretty lefty in Portland. There's universities at both places. And so when you leave the ballots on the table, when you just give everybody mail-in ballots, there's all of these ballots. Everybody has ballots. They're sitting around and people can take them. And there's massive millions of people with Trump derangement syndromes, like absolute psychotic leftist lunatics that will go around and rob, beat, murder, steal, loot. They'll stab you in the back, dude. They'll just like shank you because you got a MAGA hat on. They'll do a drive-by shooting if you endorse Donald Trump because they're that fucking crazy. So to think that people who are this level of lunatic, like the 11 out of 10 lunatics, the violent ones, the ones who believe in kooky shit, we are giving them access to our ballots. And you can, I think what they did, one scam that I was made aware of was that people can request replacement ballots. So what you do is you take two of the ballots and you put them together. So the person took their ballot, and then you can take their ballot if you have access to it. And then you could take the other ballot and you can stitch them together the way that you wanted to vote. The most election fraud occurs in mail-in voting, but if it's absentee, it's a very smaller percentage. So if it's a very small percentage of the state that's doing the absentee ballots, then if there's a 5% voter fraud on like 2 or 3% of people, it's minuscule. But if there's 2 or 5% voter fraud on everybody, then that's a lot. So what Donald Trump is saying here makes a lot of sense. It makes an absolute lot of sense. Unfortunately, the people at Newsweek are too stupid to be able to understand this. So they think that it's contradictory, but in reality, they're idiots. This next article from Newsweek: if TikTok is banned, we will move to the next big thing. Viral video creator Zach King says, quote, "I think there's something sad if TikTok gets shut down, ... At the same time, it'll be okay," end quote. Viral video creator Zach King tells Newsweek. And so this is not the end of the world if we disband TikTok. In fact, if we don't disband TikTok, then we're going to have to give money back to China, who just gave us the China virus, a.k.a. the Wu flu, a.k.a. the Kung flu, a.k.a. CCP virus. So if we just totally just disband that network, we're going to go to a different network, and that network is going to surge in popularity. The TikTok app kind of sucks. The website, I was wretchedly unimpressed. It's as bad as Instagram. Instagram is it sucks. It's a horrible app. Wish my social media or my social network software was done. I do have a viral video app in the works. It is called the A Startup. It is a AI assisted productivity technology, memory augmentation technology that interfaces with GitHub. It's like a to-do list on crack that you make viral videos with. So I personally am going to be a little bit biased. I say off with TikTok's head. Fuck them. Fuck Xi Jinping. You guys want to like come and loot our IP, hack our shit, not obey our copyright laws. Fuck them. Just disband the whole fucking network, man. Just don't let them get shit, dude. You're giving money to Nazis if you do that. And they brainwashed us. And then they interfered with our election when they sent those TikTok teens over to stop or buy all those tickets at the Trump Tulsa rally. This next article from Newsweek, Nevada Republicans plan protest over mail-in voting. The state's party chairman says the planned reform measures threaten to upend November's presidential election, and I would definitely agree with them. You can't just go around implementing these policies all at once, because in that one election in New Jersey, there was up to 40% of the ballots were fraudulent in some of the precincts. It was like a 19% overall fraudulent ballot rate in this special election. And this stuff has been going on undetected. And this does not include the voter intimidation that you have to go through when you're voting at your house, when you are under the control of other people that will tell you this is the way you should vote. Possibly they might even fill out the ballot for you and you might sign it. This is dangerous for our democracy. Nobody else should ever fill your ballot out, ever. And it happens. It happens. My mother's asked me to do that before. I've always told her that she should always fill out her own ballot because, like, how are you going to know any of this stuff? You shouldn't even vote. If you're not going to fill the ballot out, you really shouldn't vote. If somebody else is going to fill out the ballot and you're just going to sign it, don't vote. Like, that's pretty whack. You need to go and learn about the issues. Take a little bit of time to think about it. Usually, most people don't spend very much time thinking about it. I vote for Mickey Mouse. If there's only one person on the ballot for any election, I will always vote for Mickey Mouse. It's the easiest thing. You can even vote for MM. MM is still Mickey Mouse. But Mickey Mouse is still always the number one runner-up in almost every single election. So you too should vote for Mickey Mouse 2020. This next article from Newsweek, Louisiana AG accuses Facebook of Orwellian benevolence over censorship of Breitbart's hydroxychloroquine video. Quote, I'm asking that you respect the agency and intelligence of the American people to make their own decisions, free from Orwellian benevolence, Republican AG Jeff Landry wrote. And if you're unaware of what he's talking about, the video was of some doctors in a health conference talking about how they're getting censored. Their medical professional views are getting censored. And they one woman said you can use hydroxychloroquine with zinc and something else to cure COVID. She was black. And then they took down the tweet or the Facebook post, because they said it was misinformation about hydroxychloroquine. And in reality, this is an antitrust action. Breitbart is a news source that is perfectly legitimate. If you look on Wikipedia, it says it's extremist, but that's a complete lie. It says it's far right, but that's because they don't support illegal immigration, and that's bullshit to say that they're far right. No, it says they're considered far right in Europe compared to European policy. It's like, dude, you're in America. Like, who the fuck are you to say that an American newspaper is far right? That means that everybody in the world has to agree with what far right is. That is subjective, not objective. Unless you're using the original definition of far right, where the farthest left is communism and the farthest right is Nazism. But when you say left is liberal and right is conservative, this no longer means the same thing. So what they're doing is an antitrust action. They are censoring news. They're competing fact-checking organization. Facebook is attempting to be a news publisher. When they publish a fact-checking article, they are a publisher. They are not being a platform that is not. So let's compare this to New York Times, because this is always a good example. So let's say the New York Times publishes an article on their newspaper website, and it has a comment section. That article contains libel. They wrote something down that was a libel tort offense. Let's say they implicated them in some crime, and they had no reason to implicate them in a crime. They just made it up because they didn't like them. They had a comment section. In that comment section, somebody posted copyrighted material from a book. The New York Times would be liable for the speech that they put in their newspaper because they're a newspaper. They can't just go out and do that because they're like a person. A person would not have that benefit. They would be sued for libel. So when Facebook, hold on. So the New York Times, in the comment section, the person who posted the copyrighted stuff in the comment section, the New York Times would not be responsible for a copyright lawsuit for the stuff that somebody else posted in the comment section. The article that they wrote and they published, this is something that they are responsible for. The comments, not responsible for. Unless you're starting to remove the comments in order to edit it to go in line with the article. So if people posted on the New York Times that this article was fake, that the New York Times has been misleading us, and then some other people post some stuff that says this article is correct, and then they delete the stuff that's critical of them, but they leave the stuff that is not, that is no longer a comment section. They have edited the news article in order to tell a story. This is the key element, because I have to deal with this copyright law a lot because I read articles on the show. I used to suffer from legal abuse syndrome, from being abused by the legal system, so I'm pretty good with law. I'm only an amateur. I never went to law school, but I do know a lot about the Constitution. And I do know enough to tell you that Facebook has edited the news to tell a story. This is an antitrust action. They are acting as the information platform. They are acting as the news video provider. They are acting as the news publisher and the news editor. This is antitrust. They need to walk softly. I will give credit where credit is due. Mark Zuckerberg is handling this so much better than Jack Dorsey. Jack Dorsey is being an absolute slimeball piece of shit. That guy. He is being the biggest leftist douchebag cunt sucker you can find, man. Like, he's just straight up slapping it up. Got his brown nose. This next article from Newsweek, or shall I say fake Newsweek. Police came after George Floyd with guns. He cried and begged, "Don't shoot." Leaked body cam shows. Quote, I'm sorry, end quote, Floyd said as officers came to his vehicles with guns drawn. So this fake news article talks, I'm not going to give him too much breath. Let's see what the hell the fake news they were talking about was. And if you make a donation to the show, it will pay for faster internet.
I'm not going to shoot you. Step on face away.
So this guy's off his rocker on meth and fentanyl right now. I listened to that like 5 times. Listen to it again. It sounds like he's saying breathing. I can't tell. It's a little bit inaudible. Let's see what the other people are saying about the fake news. Oops. Wrong button. First comment says WCCO could only show 20 seconds, nor why she's asking to put, or when he's asking to be put on the ground while he was sitting in the car because he's saying he can't breathe. Report the news. Quit fabricating the narrative. These cops didn't kill him. He killed himself. So show the whole clip. Where's the shocker? The media lied. How much misery and destruction have the media caused with their lies and omissions this year? Nicely edited clip to show to who he's the perfect victim. Nobody trusts the media. Show the whole clip. He was not claustrophobic. How can he drive the car entire life when he was claustrophobic? He was tweeting because he was on meth. Or he's tweaking because he's on meth. Stop those lies. Actually, I didn't think about that. She's very true. How the hell? He's not claustrophobic. He's a fucking liar. Show the whole clip. Where is he saying he can't breathe while he's in the car alone? He asked to be put on the floor. He literally asked, lay on the ground. Show the entire thing. Media is the enemy. Acquit the officers. I was originally on George Floyd's side, but after seeing the entire unedited body cam footage, I changed my mind. I think this exonerates the cops. They should have released this earlier. Release the entire unedited video, you hacks. Get ready for U.S. cities to be looted and burned by BS again. This is called ratioed. This is a hardcore ratio. Is there anybody here that's saying anything positive? Died of a heart attack while high on a massive dose of fentanyl. If Floyd can't breathe, he would not have been talking like the videos like he does in the videos, where the other 8 minutes of the video, wow, the media lied. Who'd have thought? It's not the media that lied. It's the left-wing media that lied. So let's get this straight. Who's consistently lying, giving fake news? It's the Democratic Party. Party needs to end. They're ruining America. So this has been linked from leftist sources. So this isn't just your standard trolls on YouTube or anything. Not the whole video. Just remember there was 2 opsies. Both agree he had a lethal dose of fentanyl in his system, plus alcohol, plus weed, plus COVID. Had medical history, high blood pressure, heart problems. Just saying, maybe the arrest got him so worked up, his heart gave out, just maybe. So the media lied, pay for all the damages. I mean, they're guilty of inciting a riot. I agree with that. Show the part of Floyd resisting so that 3 cops couldn't control him, ergo the neck restraint, where the security footage showing George Kirby dropping the white baggie of dope. Ooh, he had a baggie of dope, huh? Might have. GF, oh sorry, St. GF, my bad. Yuck. People died over giant ass grown man crying like John Coffey. Please, please pause it. This is a circus mouse. Again, in Korea or the United States, there's no answer to inciting such things that and causing riots and having brain agitated there. Democratic Party equals left. BLM wrong man. Fentanyl plus COVID-19 plus stress of being arrested. He was already screaming. So yeah, this is as ratioed as it gets, man. Obviously, people aren't buying all this fake news crap. Next article from New York Post. DHS Deputy Secretary bashes Oregon officials for smearing officers. Acting Deputy Homeland Security Secretary Ken Cuccinelli on Tuesday accused Oregon officials of are like the opposite communist. That if you get more Republican, that you turn into a Nazi. This is the childish thinking that these people have going through their heads. But they don't understand right versus left used to mean flat hierarchy on the left, communism on the farthest left, and then Nazism is the farthest right, with the strongman ethno-nationalism competition for the most cutthroat genocidal maniac. And these are the spectrums of socialism. This is not left versus right in America, where they say left is liberals, right is conservative. In America, conservative is classical liberal and religious conservative and pro-free speech, and it's not divorced from the hippie movement in any way, shape, or form. You could be a hippie and be a Republican. It's actually true. You can actually be a raver and be a Republican. In fact, I've known a lot of ravers who used to get really fucked up on drugs, and they were hardcore Republicans. So people think that, oh, well, you're not cool if you're a Republican because you're like, you don't party, smoke pot, do drugs. That's not true. People on the right engage in drug use just like the people on the left. People on the right just do it in a much more responsible manner until they want to let loose, and that's balls to the walls. You better get a change of socks because you're going to need it, and bring your toothbrush. This next article from the Daily Mail, MSNBC reporter quits, says network is a money-making cancer. Arena, here, let me open up the article because this one's good. Alina Picari worked at MSNBC as a booker and producer for 7 years. She posted a resignation letter on her website on Monday explaining why she quit. Picari complained that the news industry focuses more on ratings than on stories she deems to be important. She said that too much time is devoted blindly to Trump because he smothers other topics in terms of drawing audiences. That's because he's so awesome. Donald Trump, once you stop hating Donald Trump, I used to hate Donald Trump. I helped start the 2016 Portland anti-Trump protest. I was one of the most livid, most deranged anti-Trump people out there. Not really. Actually, no. Actually, these fruitcakes out there right now, they got me tapped out, dude. No, they're probably trying to imitate me, and then they went extreme. Because I do see it. A lot of what's been going on are the same things that I was saying. It's just the same. It's the same. This misleading thing. You think that Republicans are racist and that they're fascist, and that somehow that Antifa just means that you're like against fascism. This actually is completely lunatic. It doesn't make any sort of sense. Antifa started out as communists who would street fight with fascists. That's why they were Antifa, is because they were hardcore communists. And then they joined. A lot of people don't know, but Nazis were over 50% communist. And the Antifa actually joined with the Nazis because it was the people from the city who then took over the rural areas. Happened in Nazi Germany and in the Soviet Union. It was the same pattern. The socialist punk scum from the city wanted to take over. That's what's happening now with the scum Tifa and the BLM Antifa Nazis. Reading on in the article, she said that MSNBC has been dodged in its criticism or dogged in its criticism of Trump since 2016. Morning Joe, one of its most popular shows, is on the president's favorite list to bash. Picari complained that the network devotes too much time to Trump in its coverage and other voices are lost. She was backed by former New York Times journalist Barry Wise, who quit over the newspaper's fear of cancel culture last month. Yeah, this cancel culture thing is bad. I got canceled. personally, that's why I'm doing this show. It's because I am a devout engineer, and I got canceled because I was in engineering school trying to finish up my engineering degree, and then I realized one day after the 2016 Portland anti-Trump protest that even though I'd been a feminist my entire life and I helped start that protest, that if I criticized feminism, that people would just turn on me because I had just witnessed it enough times. And then I started posting meninist jokes on my Facebook page, and I started getting trolled by leftist lunatics. And that's what brought me to the Walk Away campaign. And that incident provoked a lot of conflict. It caused the staff at my school to think that I was a misogynist, and caused me to, with the extra stress, to not be able to continue in my program. And then my friends stopped talking to me, and it's hard for me to get a job. The engineering community, I got trolled. There was a number of posts on Facebook. I had some altercations or interactions with one of the heads of the NVIDIA corporation, some female that posted something about how it was great that women are making more money than men now. And I had mentioned, I was like, so what is feminism going to do for black women or for black people? How does that help black people? How does that help black men? And then they started trolling me. And then what was I saying? I was saying something about white feminism and how they just like attack people. And then all these people just started attacking me. And there was like 100. I looked at my views and I had 140,000 views on these tweets with this head of the, there was like some 7 replies guy or something posted me up over the internet or something. And, so I know about this cancel culture. I've had mobs of tens of thousands of people hating on me. After a little while, it becomes funny, dude. You're like, you know it. You know which buttons you can press. You're like, all right, all I got to do is just say this thing about the feminists, and then you say this thing about the black people. You say this thing about the Latinos, and they'll just... and they don't understand all the damage that they do with this cancel culture stuff. It makes it so it's hard to get a job. People hate you because the tech industry is like lunatic leftists. They're crazy as fuck. These people are radicalized. If you say anything bad about the white women, they will flip a fucking wig on you, dude. Like seriously, man. There's no women around. It's like you got all the people who are horrible with women that would cause all kinds of problems if you were trying to hook up with chicks because they suck with women. And you stuck them all in the same place. And then you got them really pissed off because you got them stressed out because they're crunching at work. They're trying to meet deadlines. And then you got all these H-1B visas people, and they're toxic as fuck. Dude, these H-1B visa people, they all have to one-up each other. The H-1B visa system is horrible. Worst law, one of the worst laws in the country. So in order to keep your H-1B visa status, you have to continually one-up yourself. So these people, in order to stay in America, they do crazy lengths to one-up themselves to make it so their contract doesn't get canceled. And the white people, there's no fucking way that we would ever engage in that, because that is fucking insane behavior. What they're doing, they are going so hard. It excludes the vast majority of anybody. Only person that could do that would be somebody who migrated to another place who is always at work. This is not a normal person. And these people end up taking over the workplace. You say anything bad about them, you're gone. I mean, already, you know, I'm like spewing out intellectual dark web shit. Like, not like Brett Weinstein, not like some watered down, like, talking about some philosophy. Like, I'm spewing out the like Democrats, dark web shit like a fire hose, man. So these people hate me. To them, I'm like the imaginary misogynistic pig boogeyman from MSNBC. The one that mistreats women, that locks them up, rapes them, beats them, won't let them work, vote, makes them wear burqas. I'm the imp pig boogeyman. And so I would prefer to be doing something else. I am an AI scientist. I'm not the best. I'm not the smartest, but I do got my super badass sigma A star B equals sigma WX plus B Chinese room abstract technology, abstract stack machine to IMU language technologies. Allows you to interface pen and paper with GitHub and make your viral videos based on your notes. Does some fact flashcards using my WikiSpy interface that I'm building. It's all still in the works. So, I mean, I'm not like a nobody, but they would never hire me. Like, I wrote the world's fastest number printing algorithm. The fastest one in the world. And I can prove it. GitHub, Kabuki Starship. Script 2. You can go. You could see I have one of the fastest text processing libraries out there. And you can go to the wiki and you can download the fastest method to print floating point and integers. Fastest method to print integers and floating point numbers. And you could see I got out over half the division instructions using discrete mathematics. And I wrote the fastest way to align a pointer. So my C++ credentials are world class. Like I pound people. I pummel people when it comes to performance in C++. I will kick your ass. But they wouldn't hire me. They won't hire me because of cancel culture. Because they think, because I think we should give preference to male managers, because if you put off having a family, if a man does it, he's going to get a wife. If he puts off having a family to have a good job, a good career, and he's a manager, he's going to have a wife and he's going to have a kid. If a woman puts off having a kid until her 30s so she can slave for Jack Dorsey, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, she's going to kill off her family line. So in the one situation, you have man plus woman, has kids, you got one employee, and then you could have probably 2, 3, maybe, you know, one. You might end up with 2 employees, male managers at that point in time. The other system, in the end, you end up with no employees because the women didn't have babies. You know, you're required. The only way that you can sustain these people's system is by replacing the people's genetics with people from outside of the country. This is the only way that their system works. It fucking sucks, dude. Everything about these liberals' culture fucking sucks when you actually analyze it and you compare it to the Republicans, the conservative offering. Their offering is strength, more wealth, more freedom, less hassles, freedom of speech, the Constitution. Fuck yeah! Can I get another fuck yeah? Fuck yeah! And then you got these little shit-sucking leftists rioting, looting, murdering police officers and business owners because of fake news. One is detestable. One makes you want to vomit and puke once you know what it is. Like, The other is awesome. The other has a flag that looks like this badass. This flag is so badass. You can even see it. Oops. All right, give me just a second here. Let me, apparently it. Right. Hold on. Right. Okay. See, that's a pretty badass flag. Like, that thing's beautiful. What does the left want to bring? They want to take away our culture with this cultural Marxism bullshit where they want to destroy our statues, our monuments, burn our history books, ban history classes. What the fuck, dude? These people suck. Here in this next video, I wrote from the New York Post, or the next article. Let me do that one again. In this next article from the New York Post, Rhode Island councilwoman intervenes after cops show up at a bar for a noise complaint. A Rhode Island city councilwoman got involved when cops showed up at a Providence bar for a noise complaint, asking for officers' names, threatening to call the police, and saying those bothered by the noise can effing get over it, video shows. Footage released Monday by police in response to an open records ... Is this the thing? Here's
I know, I asked you. I came over here, you were over there. Wait, what's your name really quick? Can you give me his name just so I can call Chief?
Right? Badge number's right there.
What's your
I've been
name?
on it.
So it did show her over there, standing there.
Yeah.
Really quick.
Yeah, I'm probably going to get copyright.
Can you just calm down?
Notice over that.
Councilwoman, please don't tell me what to do.
I did not.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a news report.
You're also being recorded, man.
Really?
We're going to be honest with you. Like, if the music comes back on,
It's not going to come back on.
we don't care necessarily. But the fact is, someone called and complained, whether people live above here or
They
not.
live downtown. They can get over it. It's
Okay, well,
ridiculous.
then you can explain that to them.
Let's look this woman up. Let's see who this city councilwoman is. What is her political affiliation? Do we have a map? Political organizer advocating for student speech and opposing campus carry legislation. So obviously this woman is a Democrat. She doesn't list it on here what she is, but it's quite obvious from looking at her history of what she did was that obviously she's a radical lefty. Right. They think they're above the law because they're so much better than you because they're more lib than now. They are the lib-ea of today. They can do whatever they want because she is a privileged white whaman. And if you don't like it, she will ask to see your manager. Her name might be Catherine, but everyone now knows her as Karen. This next ridiculous nonsense from the Daily Mail. Kellyanne Conway's teenage daughter brands Trump a effing idiot. Trump tweeted, cases because of big testing. Much of our country is doing very well. Open the schools. I don't really have to go over this because I've already gone over the COVID data once in this episode. I'm not going to go over it again. Our country is actually doing well. There's just only some states that are having outbreaks, and it's because they're Democrat cities that locked down when they shouldn't have, and they attempted to stop a freight train that's not possible to stop, nor is it something that you would want to do. Your goal with COVID is to get the less deadly forms of COVID before you get the deadly forms of COVID. So you should probably let nature run its course, because Mother Nature is good at making the ones that are less deadly fly around more. I understand this because I have studied virology in depth. Not that in depth, but let's say I studied it my senior year of engineering school in an AI project to model the human body immune system. So I'm not, an expert, but I've modeled enough things in the computer to where I have a good intuitive understanding of the physics, because I've done 3D game engine work. So I can visualize physics on the atomic level through just my experience, like building the Oregon Cooler CO2 sequester machine, one of the world's most efficient water heaters, if not the world's most efficient water heater. So I could just see COVID. So I can, this is something that I intuitively understood. Like, okay, well, my immune system doesn't know what this virus is. It's going to give me an autoimmune disorder. So that means I want to, when I eventually get it at some point in time, I want it to be on my terms. Because if I'm going to have an autoimmune response, that means I can get my body in a healthier state. That means I can go on a diet. I can run. I can get my lung strength up. I can improve all of my organ functions through specific treatments to improve my health. And so that way, when I do get COVID, my chance of having severe acute respiratory syndrome from the autoimmune response from COVID is going to plummet, because I am now no longer at risk of dying from COVID because I'm healthy. This is what people should be advocating that you do. This is the best thing that you could do in the entire world for yourself, is to get healthy. I wake up every single morning. I put on a bathrobe. I turn my shower on, and then I lift weights while the shower is getting hot. And from this, I've gotten to be a pretty big dude, and I'm pretty healthy, and I'm not worried about COVID at all. What I am worried about is my son's education. My son is 12. He's been isolated for a while. It's been good for us because we could have used the time, but if he is isolated for too much longer, it's going to cause harm to his education. It's going to make it so his life is not as good as mine. It's going to make it so that his risk of suicide is greater. It's going to make it so his risk of being poor is greater. Risk of drug use goes up. There's a lot of bad things that can happen from a lockdown, from being forced to wear a mask. If I can't make human contact with people, if I can't engage in the behaviors I've done my entire life, and I'm locked up at my house, my chance of suicide goes through the roof. So we do probably need to start thinking about the Constitution here, because it's important. This next article from the Daily Mail says, LA County Sheriff Department, quote unquote, permeated by gang violence. Deputy Sheriff Ostabero Gonzalez claims the executioners forced him to take personal time to care of his sickly daughter. So this guy is claiming, that there's gangs in New York, white supremacist gangs controlling the prisons or the police department. But before we go too much farther, the head of the police department is saying that that's not true. Deputy Sheriff Ostaberto Gonzalez has filed a claim against LA County. According to the filing, roughly a fifth of the 100 deputies in Compton Station are part of a gang called the Executioners. Some 20 other deputies are closely associated with the gang, he says. Nearly all the members have a matching tattoo to symbolize their status in the gang, comprised of a skull with Nazi imagery and an AK-47. So that's a very specific claim. If this is actually true, they should have some sort of skull and Nazi tattoo on their arm. We should be able to pull their arm off and say, well, we got you. You're part of the Executioners. You got the skull and the Nazi thing. African-American deputies and women are not allowed to join the Executioners. Gonzalez is a decorated Marine vet who's been with the department since 2007, spent 5.5 years at the Compton location. He says he was never asked to join the Executioners, and added he was subject to abuse because he requested time off for his daughter's medical issues. So here's Gonzalez right here. And what is the thing? Here is the LA County Sheriff's take on it.
Melissa Fox, what up with the crooked gang member cops don't trust police? Well, if we have a gang member who's a cop, he's not going to be a cop for long, all right? If they're crooked, they're not going to be a cop for long. So if you have any information to that regard, please let us know. In fact, we have an entire phone number, 1-800-A-DEPUTY, I believe is a number you can call to report criminal activity. And LASD.org also has a link on that website. You can call and you can also report criminal behavior. We're not going to tolerate it. Since I've been in office, I've had the unfortunate duty to terminate 57 employees that are employees of mine. And they did it for a variety of reasons. Some of them were arrested by other agencies or faced a charge from another agency, and we took the information. We did what we had to do. We took appropriate administrative action. Same thing when it came to attention of our department. We were actually the ones that did the criminal investigation, presented to the district attorney's office, and made the administrative moves necessary to terminate the employee. So we are holding our own accountable, in spite of all the rhetoric you're reading out there.
Okay, this says the claim details the Executioners operate at CPD with impunity, members acting out against fellow deputies and the public to increase their standing in the organization. Nearly all the members have matching tattoos symbolizing their status in the game, comprising of a skull, Nazi imagery, and AK-47, the firearm heavily associated with gang activity and not with law enforcement, the claim says. Members become inked as executioners after executing members of the public or otherwise committing acts of violence in furtherance of the gang. The claim alleges those involved with fatal shootings are immediately tatted during one of many inking parties. African-American deputies and women are not allowed to join. Okay, it's pretty much a summary of whatever they said there. And so, sounds kind of fishy to me. You can look into it if you want to comment on it. This is issue, was it 58? What was that issue? It is 59. Damn, I thought it was 58. Oh, it was supposed to be 58. Yeah. Oops. Okay, so I don't know what to think about that. I think it kind of sounds crazy. You know, saying that like 1 in 5 cops is a member of some crazy gang that executes the public. Stranger things have happened, but I'm gonna call fake news on this one. It doesn't seem that there's any sort of supporting evidence in here. You have a very specific claim that they're having these tattoos. Was anybody fired? Nobody's fired. So if anybody I mean, it just sounds like he's like his daughter's sick and then he's really stressed out about his daughter and then he's like breaking down and going through some psychosis. Because this is just crazy. How many more we got? We're running towards the end. This next article from the Daily Mail: Rockettes Christmas show canceled for the first time in 87 years. MSG Entertainment, which owns Radio City Music Hall, announced Tuesday its decision to close the curtain on the iconic festive show for 2020. So this is another example of cultural Marxism here, where the left is slowly destroying all of our cultural institutions through fear tactics that they're getting fed, or fear propaganda that they're getting fed through social media networks. And this is having the effect of destroying our culture, cultural Marxism. This next article from the Daily Mail: 12 terminally ill people ended their lives under a new New Jersey law. The residents ended their lives under the state's aid in dying law that went into effect last year, according to the Department of Health report. So that's great. I've always thought it was kind of silly. Like, if you're terminally ill and you're like in extreme pain, that just doesn't make any sense to make somebody put up with that. If a physician is willing to kill that person to end that person's life, I think that it's the doctor's decision and it's your decision. I'm pretty sure there aren't many doctors out there that would just kill you if you didn't actually have a need for that. So I feel like if a doctor says that would be okay and the patient requests it, I don't really see any sort of problem with it myself. This next article from Hacker News: in spite of an increase of internet speeds, web page speeds have not improved. And the reason for this is because of all of the trackers that they're using. Well, some people don't know how to make web pages. I make web pages, so I know all about these loading times. There's a good chunk of programmers who are completely bozo. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. So they're just going to put in a whole bunch of crap, and then it's going to load incredibly slow because they don't know what they're doing. Just a good chance, yeah. That's probably what's happening. They're just loading up so much more stuff. It's good enough. As long as this is the motto that we have in software engineering is, until I've measured it, I don't need to optimize it. Right? Or don't optimize things until you need to, because there's going to be a split second where they're going to click on it, and then they're going to be used to a delay. Not going to be that big of a deal. And then if it's like 3 seconds, I think is where most people start exiting the app or the web page. So as long as you're within that area, most people don't care. And I do believe that was actually it, which is good because I'm tired. It's been 2 hours. Actually, it's right at 2 hours. Great. Thank you very much for watching Real Simple News with Coffee on Tuesday, August 4th. My name is Cale McCullough, the captain of the Kabuki Starship, signing out. Until next time, farewell, aloha, sayonara, peace be with you, and Godspeed in your journeys, friend.